Johnny, with all this political shit going on at the moment in the US, I'd like to know, Johnny, are we living in an oligarchy or a democracy? An oligarchy, Johnny? Yeah, an oligarchy. Well, an oligarchy is a form of government, sort of corrupted form of government, where all the rich and wealthy bloody people, whether directly or indirectly, bloody run the show. Right, yeah. Now Aristotle, Johnny, Aristotle. He was a bloody writer way back in bloody Roman, bloody Greek or something. Are we living in an oligarchy?
Over 2,300 years ago, in his great work Politics, Aristotle identified a system of government he called oligarchy, rule by the wealthy few.
What a writer.
Society where the wealthiest few don't just influence laws, they write them. Where they don't just benefit from policies, they create them. Where state power isn't just swayed by wealth, it's wielded by it. Sounds familiar? Well,
Australia and a lot of other countries do seem to be bloody running like they're an oligarchy. Oh, Jesus. I found this video, Johnny, from this bloke, and I think it's very interesting. And we're going to run it just to give the viewers a bit of a bit of a heads up on what an oligarchy is and whether we're living in one. Come on then, roll the tape. All right, here it comes.
You might be wondering how these ancient insights apply to the world around us. While Aristotle was examining the city-states of ancient Greece, his observations on oligarchy were remarkably astute and perhaps relevant to a few other societies throughout history. Let's consider some signs that might indicate the presence of oligarchic tendencies. First, look at laws and regulations that benefit the wealthy at the expense of the general populace or society at large.
What about that, Johnny? Does that sound familiar? I think it does. Yeah.
This isn't always obvious. It might be hidden in complex tax codes or subtle regulatory structures. Imagine, for instance, a tax code that allows owners of luxury yachts to claim significant deductions while providing no comparable options for ordinary citizens.
Well, that's sounding bloody familiar too, Johnny. I'm beginning to suspect we do live in an oligarchy and we're not even finished the fucking video. Yeah, I mean, a single mum with 3 kids battling along does 10 k's over the speed limit and she cops a $500 fine. That's an enormous burden on that particular person. Yeah! But if you're a bloody billionaire rolling along in your fancy car and you cop that fine, it's just something your secretary takes care of and it makes no bloody difference to your financial situation at all. That's a good example, I reckon, and there's a lot of laws and regulations like that in a so-called fair society. What else have they got?
Next, examine economic policies. Do they tend to increase concentration of wealth?
What is that?
Aristotle noted that oligarchies use their power to further enrich themselves.
Well, that's bloody, yeah.
Consider a hypothetical society where the government consistently bails out large corporations, which hits the general population with inflation, higher taxes, and reduced public services. Over time, this could lead to increased wealth concentration.
Yeah, by Jesus.
Another key indicator is access to political office. In a true oligarchy, only the wealthy can realistically attain positions of power. As mentioned, this might not be an explicit law, but picture a hypothetical political system where running for office requires millions in personal funds or backing from wealthy donors.
Haven't we just seen that?
Oh my God!
This effectively restricts political participation to the rich or those supported by the rich. Related to this is the question of who has genuine access to lawmakers and regulators.
Yeah, just how do you get to have a meeting with the bloody Prime Minister? I've never heard of anyone having a meeting with the Prime Minister, ever.
In an oligarchic system, the wealthy few have the ear of those in power, while ordinary citizens struggle to make their voices heard.
Jesus Christ! Where did you get this bloody video from?
Imagine a scenario where industry leaders regularly hold private meetings with lawmakers and powerful bureaucrats to discuss policy, while requests for meetings from ordinary citizens and smaller organizations are usually denied or ignored.
Shouldn't the bloody leader be having a weekly bloody chat to ordinary people, you'd think? Never heard of it.
Also look for a so-called revolving door between government and the private sector.
Oh, Johnny, it's not looking good.
You though, the kitchen is closed. Then open it, you squint.
It's been said many times that during the pandemic itself was the greatest transferal of wealth to rich bastards than the world had ever seen.
Say what?
Yeah. The rich got richer and the poorer had to stay home and do that.
If you see a constant flow of individuals moving between positions of political power and high-level corporate roles, that might indicate the kind of close alliance between wealth and governance that Aristotle associated with oligarchy.
Well, Jesus, that rings a bell, all that stuff there.
Social mobility is another crucial factor. Aristotle understood that oligarchies work to maintain class distinctions. Consider a hypothetical society where the cost of education has skyrocketed to the point where only the children of wealthy families can attend universities without incurring crippling debt.
Wow! What about that one? You and I, if we went there, we'd have to pay these bloody fees back for decades. What? And I make that comment as an uneducated son of a bitch.
One interesting observation he made was about the introduction of new cultural or ethnic groups into an existing political community. He argued that this could be a significant source of instability and conflict, especially if these groups don't quickly develop a shared sense of identity or common purpose with the existing population.
It seems to be another sign we're living under a bloody oligarchy. Well, Johnny, that was very fascinating. I'm sure our bloody millions of viewers out there will be as fascinated. It seems obvious.